Welcome to Toxic Waste of Time. I'm Katie.
And I'm Ivy.
On this podcast, we talk about all things relationships. And not just human relationships. We're talking all things relationships. Between you and your partner, your dog, your collection of novelty shot glasses, all of it.
Today we're going to talk about something that's been trending in the socials for a while now. And that's the topic of going no contact with family. It's been a thing for a very long time, but just like a lot of other topics, it's been given a title, no contact, or sometimes just low contact.
Have you ever gone no contact with a close family member? Or has a close family member ever cut you out of their lives? It can be tricky, so let's talk about it. But first, we should break the ice.
Katie, spin the wheel, please.
Okay. All right, here's the thing.
All right, Katie, What are your thoughts and feelings on people pleasing?
Fuck it, I hate people.
Kind of me too.
No, I mean, like, people pleasing as like a toxic trait. That's a toxic trait, I feel.
Yeah, it is kind of a toxic trait. I sometimes have it, and it's toxic.
Yes, I feel like I have it to an extent. Like, I would say more so with my career than in personal relationships. Because if I am in a personal relationship with a friend or whatever, I usually feel comfortable enough to say, like, no, I can't do that. I need to, for whatever reason. But if it's a work relationship, then I want to go out of my way to please that person, because I want to maintain that relationship and keep getting work from them. And that is kind of a thing in our line of work that can really quickly become a problem. You just have to find a way to do it professionally without compromising your boundaries, I think.
I think so too. I'm a little different than that in that I have this book that I bought about, 28 years ago. It's called I Don't Have to Make Everything All Better.
Yeah.
But I haven't read it yet because I've been busy making everything all better.
Yeah. That's what one of the guys on that Oprah podcast was saying, that it turned out to be a problem of his, was trying to make everything all better.
Yeah, trying to be the cool head, trying to smooth everything over, keep everyone together.
Yes.
I fight with my family. I don't care. My work relationships, now, I don't really have any issues.
Yeah.
But I do this with my kids. I do this with my husband. I used to do this with Crazy Train. If I say no to something, that person might completely forget that I said no and like go about their business. But I'm over here trying to figure out how I can turn my no into a yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of my biggest problems.
And it's hard to let go of.
I've done so much better since not working for her anymore because I'm not anxious about anything anymore. And so I think that and also I think my kids I think their frontal lobes have finally finished developing. And, I think the same thing is happening with my husband finally. So I don't really have to please anybody.
Yeah, that's good. I realized early in my relationship with my husband that I was still very conscious of his feelings, and I would make his bad feelings my problem, even if they weren't about me in any way. And it comes from, and this really ties in well to our topic of the day, but it comes from the way that I was raised in my family, where if one person is upset, the whole household is upset, and it becomes everyone's problem, And then subsequently in some of my first romantic relationships as a young adult, the same toxicity continued. And so I just got into this like pattern in my brain of like, oh, he's having a bad day. It's now my job to fix it. Whereas the bad day probably has nothing to do with me whatsoever. Like I can't control the fact that he's having technical problems with his computer or whatever, you know.
You're taking on his feelings.
I'm taking on his feelings, yeah. And so I'm trying to let go of that, but it's really hard, you know.
Well, that's a form of empathy.
Mm-hmm.
I have a problem with anytime I'm around someone who is having a bad day or having a bad experience, I absorb that.
Yeah.
And it's not like I am taking their it's like I am feeling bad for them. Like we talked about this in the last episode.
Yeah.
The difference between sympathizing and empathizing.
Mm-hmm.
When you're sympathizing with someone, you're not taking it on yourself.
Yes.
When you're empathizing with someone, you are able to put yourself in their position. And I wouldn't call that necessarily empathy, but it's similar to empathy in that you're absorbing the emotions that are around you.
Yeah. So I think that we need to aim for what we talked about in the last episode, which is being an empathetic witness. Like, I understand your feelings. I see where you're coming from. All I'm doing is witnessing that and validating that for you. I'm not trying to fix it, because that may not be what whoever, you know, is venting to me about something. It may just be they need to get it out of their system. And I can just listen and be like, oh, I hear that. That sucks, you know?
Yeah. I said today to my boss at work, I said, I'm not asking you for a solution. Yeah. I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you what happened,
and
you know?
I think, and this is not shade on my mom, but she will offer advice on how to fix whatever it is I'm trying to vent to her about. And I've sometimes had to just be like, I just want to complain. Like, I just need to get it out. Yeah. I don't need you to tell me what to do. I just need you to listen to me. That's it. You know,
I'm just talking shit.
I just need to talk some shit.
Exactly.
That's what our podcast is for. Thank you, Ivy.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about this, Katie.
Yes.
Estrangement from family. That's what it used to be called. And it wasn't talked about that much. When I met my husband, he had no contact with his dad from the time he was 13. And when we planned our wedding, neither my mom nor I had any concept of this. Yeah. It seemed just weird to both of us. And we convinced him to invite his dad's family to our wedding. Yeah. And for years, he was part of our lives, a small part. No closeness or anything, but around. I had another friend who stopped talking to her mom for a while. That is not my story to tell, but eventually they reconciled. It was going on, but there was no name for it. There was no announcement of it. It was more like ghosting. When you come from a non-toxic, non-abusive family, it's nearly impossible to understand.
Yeah, I hear that. But that's something I kind of touched on in a minute, like the idea of what family is and what family is supposed to be that is absorbed from the media, really, is kind of toxic in a way. Like that there's this expectation of it should be this, you know.
Yeah, I think that might be part of this growing no contact epidemic, I guess. Yeah, it could be just because when you're looking at people's families on social media, you're not looking at reality.
Exactly. You got to remember there's a filter and it has very tiny holes.
And also a great many of these people who have gone no contact, they grew up in households that they thought were normal.
Yes.
They thought the things that they were experiencing were normal. And so if they've left that wasn't normal and they've discovered that it wasn't normal,
that's a wound.
They can leave those relationships.
Yeah. So many of us grew up with family first, or blood is thicker than water. You only have one family. And Ivy, we talked about this before, and how we totally called bullshit on those phrases. It was in the episode on found family that we went over the actual intended meaning of blood is thicker than water. And it actually says the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, meaning no ma'am. Blood is not thicker than water, and I can call whomever I want family.
Yes.
So the blood of the covenant, meaning this agreement that we have to be, you know, whatever, is thicker than the water of the womb. So
initially I caught on to this because of the TikToker called doormat mom no more, who says horrible things about her adult children who have cut her off. She even wrote a book about it, Doormat Mom No More, when good parents finally say enough to their ungrateful adult kids. And she is clearly the problem. But apparently she started some online forums for other parents whose kids have also gone no contact with them, so they can all talk about what great parents they were and how their kids have hurt them so badly. But I'm just going to say, I'm just going to say that I do not think that most people would cut off their parent for nothing. And that woman is quite obviously, in my opinion, allegedly, the poster child for a parent who should be cut off from their adult children and grandchildren. And she could probably benefit from listening to our episode in season 1 on narcissistic behavior.
Yes, that episode's called Clocking the Narcissistic Boss, and it's still our most listened to episode.
Yes.
Yes. And Oprah called it a trend. And Ivy, I don't think you used that word, or I think you did use that word too, but Oprah kind of took some heat for using that word after her discussion forum on it. And I can see why, you know.
Yeah, oh, yeah. It's not a trend, but it is trending upwards in frequency.
Yeah, I think that's what she meant.
As I mentioned, it would be pretty unusual for someone who grew up nurtured and cared for by their parents to just be like, all my friends cut off their parents, so I will too. I do not think that's likely.
No.
I think it's probably pretty painful to have to come to that decision. And there has to be some pretty deep wounds leading up to it.
Absolutely.
It reminded me when I was writing this script, it reminded me of being gay as a choice.
Yeah, fuck that.
It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, why would I choose this? Why would I choose?
Exactly.
Why would I choose this?
Yes.
It's not something that you choose
You're
to cut off
choosing the
someone.
more difficult, painful thing.
Exactly. I'm not going to choose the harder path.
Right. And I noticed that in that, so this was kind of inspired by a podcast episode that Oprah did about no contact. And one of the doctor expert guys in there was kind of blaming social media for the most part about this. And I am not a fan of social media. I have made that very clear. But in this case, I don't think that is the major crux of the problem. Like, I think it could possibly be perpetuating it some, especially in the case of Doormat No More, that bitch. In the case of her, she's made now a social media place for people to go and feel validated in their wrong feelings. And so I guess it could also work the other way. That sycophantic thing that we've talked about too. But like, no one does this on a whim. No one does this as a trend. Whatever.
No,
you know,
no.
there's
I think there's
reason.
probably a percentage of attention seekers who might.
Maybe. Which is a separate problem.
But kind of like attention seekers who are going to choose any other harder path.
Yeah.
They're always going to change their mind when it gets too hard.
Yeah. Okay. So there's low contact, very low contact, and no contact, according to many of the groups and forums out there supporting people who are estranged from family members. Some people also mention pausing their relationships.
Well, I've done that. I've told my brothers to check on my mom for a bit so I can take a break.
Yeah. I've also paused contact with family members and friends. And the case I'm thinking about was basically because I needed space from them and their negative energy was just wearing me out.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that was what happened with me the time that my dad was even still alive at the time. And I was like, I can't keep doing this back and forth with them. So I just texted both of my brothers and I was like, hey, and again, it lasted like a week. It wasn't like I took, it might've been 2 weeks, but it wasn't like I took a year of no contact with my parents. It was just like, I was checking on them every day. It was the pandemic. It was too much. And I was like, I gotta step back.
Fair. This was, for me, it was several months. When I was just finishing up writing on this script, I remembered that my dad went basically completely estranged from his entire family, even though when I asked my mom about it, she was like, no, it was just his brother. And I'm like, but his sister had passed away and both his parents had passed away, so his brother was kind of the only one still alive. So it was just like I didn't know anyone in my dad's family really. And I wonder if that contributed to some bad things for him. I don't know. I never really got clear on like what actually happened to cause that rift because it wasn't something he talked about.
Last night on the Jeffersons. Have you ever watched the Jeffersons?
I have absolutely watched the Jeffersons.
Okay. So Jody went to get in the shower.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't actually watching. He just turns on Tubi and whatever show from my youth is on. And right now I'm on a Jeffersons kick. Mm-hmm. So it was Mother Jefferson's birthday.
Okay.
And Lionel, who always looked like an adult man to me, so I never knew how old he was grown. Mm-hmm. And so George and Louise had to have been married for like at least 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
So they forgot Mother Jefferson's birthday. Mm. And Mrs. Jefferson, Louise, heard her mention Emma. And Louise said, well, who's Emma? And George said, well, that's Mama's sister. And she said, what? Your mom has a sister? I didn't know she had a sister. How come I've never heard about her sister? And George said, well, they haven't spoken in 25 years. It was because they were playing bingo together, and Mother Jefferson had to go to the bathroom, and her sister stole her bingo card, and she won, and it should have been hers, and they didn't speak for 25 years because the 9 was mine.
Well, this is a comedy, so.
I just thought it was funny because siblings might quit talking to each other over something stupid, I think.
Yeah, my best guess about my dad and his brother is because this happened after their mother passed away and their father had passed a few years before that. So I think that there was something to do with like the will or the funeral or something.
Well, that happens a lot.
Yeah, that's my guess, but I actually never really got clarity on that. First time I saw my dad's brother in like my adult life was when he came to my dad's funeral, and I was like, who's that guy?
Yeah. Wow.
You know.
Wow.
And I was like, well, it was nice of him to show up, I guess. I don't have siblings, so that's a foreign concept to me.
I am not an expert in anything, really, but this seems like a decision that does not come easily. Mm-hmm. I've read several articles and seen a bunch of videos on the subject, and most of what I've seen and heard is adult children who have cut ties with their parent or parents because of long-term, ongoing behavior. These children have usually spent years making excuses, trying to have conversations, trying to set boundaries, feeling guilty, and finally they just have to walk away for their own well-being.
Yeah. A lot of the people that Oprah was asking about it said it wasn't just one thing, that It was like a lifetime of small things building up that were just like, I've tried and I've tried and I've tried and I just can't do anything else but this, that it's definitely a last resort, you know.
And most of those children also say that their parent won't even admit their actions. They don't
that's
even
the biggest
see
problem.
The biggest thing. Like if I say to my mom, this is totally hypothetical. If I say to my mom, you treated me like this my whole life. My whole life I have felt like this. And she says, no, I didn't. No. Even if she doesn't think she did, if she's not trying to say, I'm sorry that I made you feel that way. I'm sorry that you feel that way. I'm sorry. Anything at all other than, nuh-uh.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is happening with a lot of these parents. Doormat Mom No More is a case to prove she did nothing wrong. She gave them a perfect life. She did everything right, and they're just ungrateful little bastards. And she calls them that.
So much because
it's her favorite word.
Yeah, it implies that you have to be grateful for whatever you're given, and it's that like weird competition thing, like the competition of suffering. Like my pain isn't valid because there's people that have more pain than me. No, that's not how it works. Like
I think ungrateful is a real thing, but I think that when you call someone out on being ungrateful towards them, you are going, I deserve praise. I deserve praise.
So, yes, going no contact typically comes after years of ongoing harm and abuse, continuing from childhood into adulthood with little to no change, or even any attempts at change. Sounds like dealing with a narcissist, perhaps, or at least a lot of narcissistic traits. Most of the time, adult children go no contact to protect themselves. And our society is conditioned to find this weird. Like I said, the media says your family should be one way. People will use those old cliches we discussed earlier, suggesting that because they are family, they should just get a pass. Because obviously your mom just automatically gets access to your life regardless of how she's treated you your whole life. Like, you don't owe anybody access to things that you want to keep private. Like, in whatever relationship, if that's your boundary, that's fine. You know, so I was definitely susceptible to that. And I expected all my family relationships to be nurturing and perfect, like in the movies. Again, that's media influencing our interpretation of relationships. I had to come to terms with the loss of what those relationships could have been versus what they actually were and are, you know, and it reminded me of several of the adult children on that podcast saying, like, how do I get over this feeling of missing out on that relationship, you know? There was one woman whose mother basically just left her when she was 6 and went off to be with some other boyfriend. And like, getting over the loss of that has to be really, really difficult, because there's just no way to ever get those years back that she could have had with her mom, no matter what they do, you know? And then
I know someone whose mom did that also.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna out anybody here, but she's an adult now. She does have contact with her mom, but there is still that, well, you weren't there for me when I was a kid. When I really needed my mom, you chose to go and live your life, your best life, doing whatever it was that you wanted to do, while I was being raised by my dad and his family. And then now she acts like she was always there.
Yeah.
You know, and I guess I can speak on my husband's situation. My husband was not ever the most important person. Like, he was there and they knew they needed to keep him alive, but he wasn't anyone's priority.
That's hard.
So you know,
but he's your priority.
He is my priority. And when we were in marriage counseling, that was something that came up, was that he never actually felt loved until me, which is a damn shame that he spent 18 years not knowing that he was loved.
Yeah.
You know, and his mom was always there, but her husband was more important, or, you know, or Jody's behavior was too much, or, you know, like, he was this grandmother's house, back to, you know, all. And I said he had no contact with his dad from the time he was 13. And we didn't find out until many years later that was his mom. So that's a long story. We don't have contact with his mom.
Yeah.
And that was her choice.
Right.
She just kind of ghosted us anyway.
Yeah. Well, that feeling of being too much is, I think, a big problem, you know, and it's a way that family members and, you know, relationships with people of all kinds can become toxic when someone feels like they are too much. When I feel like I'm too much, it makes me feel bad about myself. It makes me question if any of my feelings are valid. And it's part of gaslighting. I think that those things are connected, you know, feeling like I'm too sensitive. My feelings are not real or valid, or I shouldn't feel that way because, like, no. You don't get to choose. No one should
be called they're too anything except for pretty.
I think I was told that I was too pretty one time for a role, and I was like, okay, I'll take that.
Yeah, you can say too pretty, but anything else.
Yeah, I got told, by the way, I'm 42, and I got told that I sounded too young and innocent to read
Oh.
this one memoir of this lady. And I was like, I mean, I guess call me in 20 years when
Yeah.
I'm 62.
Mhm.
Maybe I'll
I
sound
actually-
like I'm 30.
I talked to a client on the phone the other day that I could have sworn was a teenager, and she was in her 70s.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love voice work. I play a 19-year-old on the daily.
Love it.
Love it. All right. So what are some reasons for going no contact?
Well, abuse, plain and simple.
Yeah.
If a parent or any other family member has abused you and have made no attempts to change their behavior, why does being family make that acceptable?
Mm-hmm.
Many abusive people won't even admit to being abusive. It's a secret. That's a surefire reason to end any relationship. I don't care who you are.
Yes. Acceptance or lack thereof. And of course, the LGBTQ plus community knows all too well about family estrangement. If being your true self means leaving people who refuse to accept you as you are, then bye-bye. Or perhaps it's religious abuse or trauma that leads you away from your family. If they refuse to accept you, why do you go back? And I think it's like you just got to let go of that loss. And it is like something you have to grieve, as the idea of what this relationship could have been. And I went through the same thing when I got dumped, by a long-term boyfriend. I had to grieve what I thought that relationship was going to be and really look carefully at what it actually was, and it's the same thing. But side note here, wherever there could be a cult involved on one side or the other, meaning the person who wishes to go no contact or whatever, remember that cults really love to alienate their members from their family and friends. And some of our parents are in a cult. A lot more of our parents are in a cult than I think some people are willing to acknowledge. That's a problem. I mean, I honestly blame that more than social media for this quote unquote upward trend in estrangement of families. I blame the cult like behavior of certain people.
Well, but if you look at the statistics that I'll talk about in a minute, it was really a much lower percentage of people who stopped or cut off contact from family for political, religious, those types of things. It was only 4 to 8% of estrangements.
I hear that. But I would say that this particular cult enables all kinds of toxic behavior. And whether or not you can tolerate someone who has opposing viewpoints to you, political reasons or whatever, like just the mentality of, and this ties into religion as well, the mentality of like, it's my job to argue with you, to convince you that my viewpoint is right in order to save your soul or whatever, that is all tied together now. And
I think in those
think that's
cases,
an
if you're
influence.
unable to separate, if you're unable to say, okay, this is a topic we're not going to discuss. If you are unable to do that, my mother, for instance, we had this conversation today about, 15, maybe 20 years ago. Her best friend of like 40 or 50 years said, if you don't stop it with the religious talk, I'm going to have to end our friendship. I can't deal with it.
Yeah.
My mother refused and she lost her best friend.
Yeah.
So that,
Yeah.
and when I brought that up today, she was like, are you threatening me? And I'm like, no. That's not where I'm going with this at all. I'm just saying we can't have this conversation over and over and over and over again. You're not going to change me.
Exactly. Yeah. And some people are just not willing to let go of, wanting to force their viewpoints on other people. Like, and I think that is the biggest problem right now that's leading to these estrangements, that's leading to this huge divide in our society, is this like just not being able to try and find any common ground, not give an inch, not admit that you're wrong about something, to double, triple, quadruple down on your point, no matter what that point is, and this division is sowing that behavior in people.
I agree. I don't see it as much in real life as I do on the internet. The divide. I don't see it as much in my personal life.
Yeah.
In the real world as much as I do on the internet, because it is absolutely 100% true that people are braver behind their keyboard.
Yes, that's what I was going to say, is that it's a lot harder to say to someone's face, I think you're a dumbass because of your political beliefs, than it is to say it on the internet behind anonymity of some kind.
Absolutely.
Or to say it on the internet out loud for attention, Like, you're not really getting attention if you just start an argument with somebody in real life. But doing it for attention, like, it gets views. And I mean, you know how I feel about social media. I don't love it. But, like, it's all tied together. It's all connected.
Mental health issues.
Yeah.
Untreated addiction or untreated mental illness can lead to pretty severe negative impacts. And while most of us want to help our parents or siblings in these situations, they can also be dangerous and pretty emotionally draining. If someone refuses the help they need, that's the same as them refusing to hold up their end of the relationship.
Yeah. That made me think of, again, that one guy on the podcast that was kind of, I didn't agree with everything that he had to say about estrangement, but he was saying he's met people that said, I'm going no contact with my parent because they didn't realize that I was depressed and didn't get me the help that I needed. And he said, oh, that's not fair to the parent because they're not a mental health expert. I would say it's your job to pay attention so that you at least have a clue. In the same way that your cat may not tell you anything is wrong, but you still have to take them to the vet and get the tests done, or you may not know. I would say you still have to be making an effort to check in with your kids and see if there are any red flags,
right,
or things that may be concerning, and create a safe environment for them to come forward about that stuff to you, which is the other problem, that your kids are not telling you why they're mad at you because you didn't make them feel safe to say so.
And none of us are born knowing how to parent. None of us are born with the knowledge that people need certain things. Like, none of us are born that way. So as long as your parents did their best to nurture you and care for you, if they missed something, that's just being human.
I agree with that.
So I read an article. My son was a grown adult by the time I read this article. And it made me feel like the worst parent in the world, because it said, oh, kids that have a lot of tummy aches are probably dealing with depression or anxiety or mental health stuff. And I called him up and I was almost in tears. And I was like, you always told me your stomach hurt. Always. And this little motherfucker said, Mom, sometimes I just wanted to stay home and watch Scooby-Doo. But, like, that's the thing, is that you only know as much as you know.
Yeah.
And as long as you're doing your best, some of the clues, some of the signs we're not going to get as parents, because we're not perfect as parents. And my parents were not perfect as parents, but I had a pretty close to perfect childhood because they took care of me, they fed me, they did what I needed to do. Now, in the opposite spectrum, my mother insisted I was depressed and forced me to go to a therapist once. And I wasn't depressed. I was sad. My boyfriend broke up with me.
Yeah.
And I was pissed that she forced me to go to this therapist because I didn't think I needed the therapist. So being a parent is hard.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard. And those of us whose children love us and respect us and appreciate the things that we did for them, like my kids love me, my kids love their dad. We did not do everything perfect. We didn't do anything perfect. We just did the best we could. That's super important. Our kids aren't going to go no contact with us.
Yeah.
But again, not perfect, had no clue about mental health and issues like that. Both of my kids would have probably benefited from some mental health visits.
Everybody can benefit from that.
We didn't know any better.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I hear what you're saying, that like you don't know what you don't know. Everybody just is doing their best, right? And sometimes the patterns that we repeat in our relationships and in our family dynamics are coming from toxic patterns from the generation before that
that's
we didn't
what I'm
even know
saying.
about and stuff like that, you know. But like regardless, I think if a family creates a safe environment where everybody feels heard and is taken seriously when they have feelings, that's really the best you can do. And if your kid is depressed and you don't know about it, I think there's a reason for that. And I think that there's something got broken along the way, something, you know. That there's
maybe or they're hiding it from you on purpose. Like that's the thing, is teenagers are weird. Kids are weird. They're also secretive. They're also like, I think that these people who have cut contact with their parents, there's something way deeper than just typical mistakes parents made.
Yeah.
And I don't think that their parents did their best. I think if their parents did their best, they wouldn't have cut contact with them. I think that's the issue, is that they didn't do their best. They either were too caught up in their own shit, or they were abusive, or they were just downright bad people.
Yeah. Or they're in total denial about the fact that they made any mistakes at all.
Yeah.
just the whole crux of the conversation seems to be that if you are willing to reflect on yourself and admit that maybe you did do something wrong and you want to earnestly know what it was so you can learn and grow from it, then that is a place that will help you move forward. But if you are just digging your heels in, that's the reason they're not talking to you.
Exactly. That's my point. That's what I'm saying, is that and I put a quote down here. If you're an estranged adult child and you're looking for a way to get your parents to hear what the problem is, I'm sorry, but you have your answer already.
Yeah.
When a parent or anyone won't give your grievances or concerns the time of day, that's a pretty good reason to walk away. If they're refusing to work on the issue.
Yeah. And we talked about that in the green flag episode too, about it's a green flag when someone acknowledges a mistake and is willing to work on something about themselves.
And parents make mistakes. I'm here to tell you.
Absolutely. But the number of times that I have heard a toxic family member actually apologize is like slim to none, you know?
Yeah. No, I know.
It's always someone else's fault. And it's so funny, too, because it's really easy to turn that around and make it the other person's fault and saying like, oh, she's blaming me for, you know, I must be such a bad parent. She's blaming me and making it my fault for her problems. Well, if there was healthy communication, if there was a nurturing environment where everybody felt safe to really say how they felt and be vulnerable and truthful, that wouldn't have happened.
Again, with my own mother, we can have these arguments that we have about me not sharing her brain.
Yeah.
And still have a relationship. Like, it's not like we're going to have these conversations where I've hurt her feelings because I'm not a Christian and she's not going to cut me off and I'm not going to cut her off. I feel safe enough with my own mother to tell her, I don't agree with you.
Yeah.
You know, and if you don't feel safe to share your feelings with your parent,
that's the parent's fault.
Yeah.
That's just how it is. Yeah. So in a nutshell, you wouldn't stay in an abusive relationship with someone else, so why stay in one with your family member? it's really, I think the reason people stay in those relationships with family members who are abusive and toxic and whatever is just because of the like societal expectation of the family is supposed to look a certain way.
Yeah. Or people who are like, what do you mean I can just not talk to my mom? What?
Right.
What do you mean I can? But she's my, no.
Like, and it's true. Going no contact is the last resort.
It should always be the last resort.
Always, yes. Mm-hmm. But you can do things to create some distance and some boundaries and see if that helps. Because for me, it did. For me, saying to my family members who I do not agree with politically, listen, I don't want to argue with you about this thing that neither of us really has any control of. You know, I want to continue to have a relationship with you. And if you want the same thing, then we're just have to take this topic off the table. Yeah. And that's just how it has to be. Mm-hmm. Some people won't listen to that, though. Yeah. And if that's the case, then you need to, do something else. So what about reconciliation? Is it possible? I think so.
Well, this year, I found a survey done by YouGov, who I'd never heard of, but they got almost 4,500 adult U.S. citizens to answer questions on family estrangement. And the questions were based on estrangement from a sibling, a parent, a child, a grandparent, and a grandchild. Because not all no-contact situations are parent-child. Yeah. And it's not always the child who cuts off contact with a parent. Of those who answered the questions and who are estranged from a family member said the following. Of those estranged from a sibling, 45% said yes, they would consider reconciling. A parent, 35%. said yes, they would consider reconciling. A child, of course, this is the highest because all parents, most parents want contact with their children. 70% of parents who have cut contact with the children say yes, they would like to reconcile. Grandparents, 40% said yes, and a grandchild, 66% said yes.
So my question there is like, who chose the estrangement in those scenarios?
So these are the people who chose the estrangement.
Okay.
So it's if a sibling chose to be estranged from their sibling, 45% of them said yes, they would consider reconciling.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. The survey also had some more detailed reasons for going no contact. And let's point out that even in this contentious religious political climate that we see on socials, only 4 to 8% of estrangements are due to these reasons alone. And the highest percentages are due to manipulative behaviors, abuse, betrayal, or neglect. But remember what I said about cults, right?
Cults are not religious or political. They're cults. Yeah. So they're outside of that, even if they pretend that they're a religion or a political group. They are still a cult. So if it's a cult, that's outside of that. And I don't even think the word cult is on this survey.
Yeah, well, like, I mean, the point of a cult is to estrange you from your whole
absolutely.
Circle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that this is trending upward is really sad. But it's not due to these religious political contentions alone. But I think that there is a correlation between people who have strong religious political opinions that they really want to force on someone else and estrangement for other reasons. Like if you're growing up with a parent who thinks they're always right, who treats you like you don't matter, then their views are more important than yours. So of course they're going to try and force their political views on you. You know, that's what I see as a person looking at this pattern. As a person with low-key autism and pattern recognition, that's what I'm seeing. You know? But again, we're not experts. We're just talkers.
Yeah. Not an expert on anything. So, Katie, what's your opinion on no contact and its level of toxicity? Do you think going no contact is toxic?
I mean, no, not in and of itself. I think that a relationship has to be toxic in order for someone to choose to go no contact.
Agree.
But the act itself, I don't think that it is. No matter what the reason that somebody gives for going no contact, if they didn't feel they could just sit down and talk to you about it, that is some toxicity of some form in the relationship.
Yeah, because again, it's not a trend. Using the word trend is only because it is trending right now. A lot of people are talking about it. There's a lot of TikTok videos. There's a lot of YouTube videos. There's a lot of people talking about it. And in the past, it wasn't really talked about. You don't talk to your mom. That's your business. You don't really bring it up. Yeah. Like I said, when I met my husband and he was not in contact, no one went no contact because these people legit are sending texts and emails to their family members saying, do not contact me. Do not reach out to me. It is a official thing. It's not just, I think there's a thing in this poll that shows just lost contact or just grew apart. Yeah. And those percentages, some of them, depending, like siblings, it's higher where you've just kind of lost contact than with parents. You're not just gonna lose touch like an old friend,
Yeah, I could see that. And I don't have any siblings, but I could see how, like, let's say you and your sibling are just really different and you're into different things. And it's kind of hard for you to get together and do something fun together because you just can't agree on what that thing should be.
I mean, just because you don't talk all the time doesn't mean you are no contact. These people are specifically requesting from a family member to not contact me. And there's been a lot of videos when you watch a bunch of the doormat mom no more garbage, you're going to get also videos from hospice nurses. I don't know if you came across any of those in your research.
No, but there was that one that was in the Oprah pod about that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, she said, like, I'm a hospice nurse, and I don't think you're a bad person if you refuse to talk to your dying parent that you have been estranged from. I don't think that makes you a bad person. And, like, yeah, I agree. You don't know the situation, so judging somebody for making that choice that they made in coming from a very, very difficult place is not worth your judgment.
And also, I don't know if it was on the Oprah thing or if it was another video that I saw. Some people on their deathbed are not looking to apologize. They're looking to tell you how wrong you've been to not speak to them.
Yeah.
Things like that. Like, you don't know what you're going to walk into. Let's say you've cut contact with your grandfather because he was abusive to you as a child. And he's begging his hospice nurse, I want to talk to my granddaughter. I want to talk to my granddaughter. And she calls you and asks you to come and talk to him. And you go. You don't know if he's going to say, I'm sorry that I hurt you as a child, or if he's going to say, why do you lie about me? I don't want to die not knowing why you lie about me. And so it's dangerous. It's dangerous for the person who's been protecting their mental health. And, that nurse on Oprah said that one of them was like, I'm going to write you a letter. And they never did. They just never did.
They really, I think, just did it for attention for, whatever selfish reason that got them estranged in the first place.
Yeah. Deathbed does not make you a good person.
Everybody dies. It's the great equalizer.
I want to say, though, that I personally, every time I see any relationship end, my first gut instinct is, did you do everything to save that relationship? Yeah. I hate to see relationships end. I told you about my friend Holly when I was 7 years old that broke my heart because she unfriended me on Facebook and didn't remember me because once you're in my heart, you're there, and so I just hate to see relationships end. I hate to see people who are supposed to love each other. Hear the word, I said supposed to. I hate that. And because I did grow up in I mean, could have been a sitcom family. Like,
Yeah.
it was pretty darn normal. When I first encountered my husband and learned about, and he still will say things to me about when he was a kid that I'm just like, oh, just like gut punch. And that was just that. What?
Yeah.
What's weird? You know?
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like that. So if you've grown up in a horribly toxic household, that's different than if you grew up and your parents and you just kind of argue a little. Like, those people aren't going to be the ones that go no contact. So I don't necessarily think the action of going no contact is toxic. But like you said, I think definitely what got you there was toxic. Absolutely was toxic. Another thing about this survey that I wanted to point out that I found interesting was the low percentage of LGBTQ and identity being the cause of, because those were the people who we always saw getting kicked out of their houses for being gay. So it's curious to me, like, grandchildren, only 2%. Only 2%. And I would think that would be higher. But up here on conflicting values or lifestyle is 10%. So I don't know if it's just interesting to me, the things that I thought would have contributed more to estrangements out of these 4,500 people didn't. It wasn't the reason.
Right. But that survey was coming from the angle of the people who chose the estrangement, chose it for LGBTQ reasons, right? So, like, I don't think there's a lot of people who, as a grandparent, choose to estrange from your grandchild because the grandparent is gay. It's got to be the other way around. But they're going to choose, if it's a grandparent choosing the estrangement because their grandchild is gay, I don't think they're going to want to admit that.
Only 13% of children were cut off by their parent. My husband falls into that category. Yeah. Only his mom never pointed anything out to us, and it is obvious from everything that went on that I'm the problem. Because when we have run into her or seen her or whatever, he's not the bad guy. I am.
The fuck? You've been married for 30-some years. Yeah.
Well, 5 days before my wedding, she called me to tell me I would be a terrible wife.
Gross.
So, yeah. But no, that part, and I even did a search. The reason I found this survey was because I did a search for that, because there was one woman in the Oprah thing, and I never went back and listened to it. But she stood up and she said that she cut off contact with her child. And I think that probably, I've seen parents who, tough love, cut off contact with their child because of their addiction. Like,
that's what I was going to say. Like, it sounded to me, and that she didn't come out and say it, but it sounded to me like her son maybe had an addiction.
Yeah.
Or was manipulative in some kind of way, or, who knows. But that would make sense.
Because a girlfriend of mine did that. She did it out of love. And he is sober and they are back now.
Yeah. But self-reflection is the key to healing. Yeah. One of the main takeaways from this was that we don't get to decide what hurts other people. If you hit someone and they say that hurt, you don't get to say, no, it didn't. And that is crazy to me that even happens, but it does.
Well, that's what happened with my mom today. She told me I hurt her feelings because I'm not a Christian. And I said, no, I didn't.
So the reason these estranged children don't even want to talk about why they've gone no contact with whatever family member is because the parents didn't give their children a reason to believe that they would be heard. They have shown that they won't take their needs and feelings seriously. They invalidate their emotions, etc. So why would I try to explain to you why I'm mad at you if you won't listen to me? And that's the whole reason I'm mad at you.
Right.
When I went on break from my family member that I've been talking about, I let another family member know what the reasons were so that no one would think I was dead or whatever. But I did not try to explain it directly to the problematic person because I knew they wouldn't listen and would just turn it into a screaming match. And that was the whole reason that I was trying to take a break from that. You know, they say their kid went no contact, or they chose to go no contact because the child didn't get their way. Right. That was what one of the mothers said, that she didn't get her way. And so she went no contact with me. Well,
What?
that's still on the parent. Yeah. Yeah, that's what it boiled down to. That one mom, that she was also a TikTok mom, that was saying, you know, blah blah about your child is yeah. Well, that's still on the parent, because you need to raise your kid to have conflict resolution skills. That's part of your job as a parent, is figuring out how to not argue. And like you said from your marriage counseling, if mom and dad are not okay, the kids are not okay.
That's right.
So there's something else broken there that she wasn't admitting on Oprah. You know, they need to.
Yeah, well, I'm not buying the she didn't get her way anyway.
Oh yeah,
I'm not buying it, because let me tell you, I would be in my room crying 24/7 if one of my kids said to me, I'm going no contact with you. It would destroy me. The only thing I would ever want is that back. I don't think these parents actually care as much as they say they do.
Because if they cared as much as they say they do, they would self-reflect. You would try everything, and you would finally reach a point where you say, maybe I did do something wrong.
They would say, I will do anything. Tell me what you want me to do. I cannot go back. I cannot change anything from your childhood. I can't. If I could, I would.
The father that said that he finally got his daughter to talk to him, and she said, well, you're a helicopter parent. You know, he got to that point because he wanted to resolve the problem so badly that he was willing to hear her out and take that to heart. And he even went to therapy about it, despite the fact that he was like, I don't want to go to therapy. Yeah. You know, like, if you want something bad enough, you're going to do what it takes to fix it. Yeah. I just don't buy that the kids are just ungrateful, spoiled brats, liberal snowflakes, or whatever. No. There's an actual problem. There's an actual reason.
There has to be an actual problem with parent and child. Siblings, totally different thing. You cut off. Like, I have this one aunt. She is never, ever, 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 ever allowed to be on my social media again.
I liked how you coughed and came back and said ever again.
Never. Okay. My voice is failing me.
Yeah. It's the December crud.
But she's still my aunt, and I'll still communicate with her. I mean, she's crazy. They all are.
Yeah.
But we have that boundary. No social media. I gave her a second chance once, and she did the same goddamn thing. No more social media for you. But you're still my aunt. I have not cut her off. I have not cut off any family members. There are family members that I don't talk to because not everybody is close with their aunts, uncles, and cousins, you know.
My uncle did not come to my wedding because even though I sent him the save the date like almost a year in advance, he did not come because it was too late for him to get a flight.
No.
And I was like, well, it's because you waited till 2 weeks before. And
not a goddamn one of my aunts and uncles came to my wedding because I got married young and they just didn't bother.
They didn't believe you.
Yeah, I guess.
Serious.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks. The parents who accepted that they had done something wrong, even if they didn't intend to, they were willing to go to therapy, etc., they are the ones who are able to reconcile.
Yep.
And I think the quote from that was, self-reflection is the hallmark of emotional maturity. Self-reflection is a green flag. It's a green flag.
Yeah. I read a Psychology Today article, and the writer of that article, her name is Michelle Weiner Davis. She called it an unfortunate trend. And she said it had her up late at night after she watched it because it was so upsetting to her, because she spent her whole professional career helping people love each other more and teaching skills that enable stronger, healthier connections. She also, like, I think the words like toxic and narcissistic are used a little bit too much now. We use them all the time on this podcast.
Yeah.
But as far as, we're not actually diagnosing anyone. Like, that's what's going on, is everybody's diagnosing everyone. She said ending relationships with family members is a monumental decision. The hurt and grief felt by those left behind is unspeakable. And then grandchildren learn that when relationships are difficult, cutting off people is the solution. I don't disagree with her on that. She also said it's easy to forget that our parents are people too. That's what I said a few minutes ago. People make mistakes, and we are not born with a gene for being a good parent. Here's another thing I wanted to say. Encouraging complete withdrawal from relationships leads to nothingness, and nothingness leads to nothing changing. That's the whole thing, is if your parent or your child or whoever you've cut off refuses to change, like we've been saying, that's when it's toxic.
And I mean, acknowledging that nobody's perfect, all of that is well and good. But like,
there are some horrible, horrible people in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to say everybody is innately good, because they're not. There are some really, really shitty people in the world, and a lot of those people have children, and sometimes they have a lot of children. And then those children are left to fend for themselves. And if they cut off their parents, good for them.
yeah.
Good for them. I'm just saying it's toxic if you came from a more normal childhood and you cut off your parents and neither one of you are open to reconciliation. You both have to be open.
Right. And like, the skills that it takes to self-reflect, the skill that it takes to resolve a conflict and try every avenue before you go non-contact, those skills are taught to us by our parents, by and large. It is really no one else's responsibility to teach that to a child. Schools will try, and they call it social emotional learning, and we're all liberal nut jobs now for trying to teach this to kids. So I'm out. That's one of the reasons that I got out of teaching.
Some parents aren't equipped.
And that's
what I'm trying to say, is some of us, like my husband, for example, when we went through what we went through 15 years ago, we almost broke up. I thought for sure that there's no way that he would go to counseling and do the things that it took, because he wasn't raised at all. No one taught him how to deal with conflict. No one taught him anything. I thought for sure there's no way that we're going to save this, because he's not going to do the work. And he did the fucking work.
Good job.
He didn't have anyone. He didn't have anyone to show him, this is what a marriage should be like. This is what a relationship should be like. This is what... He didn't have anyone to show him, and he showed up and he did it himself.
Respect.
So some people just aren't nurtured by their parents. Some people just aren't taught these things that you would think. Like, you know, I was raised by... My parents are silent generation people. They're called silent generation for a reason.
Yeah.
We weren't really, there was no, we were taught to believe what they believe, but we weren't necessarily, we weren't coddled.
Yeah.
Like, I coddled the fuck out of my kids.
Yeah. I mean, the pattern of like not teaching those skills, if you're not taught those skills by your parent, how are you going to teach them to your child? And then whose fault really is that? Like, but at some point, you have to make the decision to figure it out and do what it takes and educate yourself, right? And I have a lot of empathy for my family, for example, because now after looking into it and doing some research about toxic personality traits and, toxic family dynamics, I've realized that it is generational. Like the things that my family did to me that were not okay, their parents did to them first, and their grandparents did to them first. So it's just like, we at some point got to make it stop. And the way to make it stop is to self-reflect and figure it out yourself. What are your flaws? What do you need to fix? What can you do to make this relationship better, make all your relationships better, period.
Yeah.
Mic drop.
Exactly.
Well, listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. This was a little bit of a deeper, more intense emotional topic, so thank you for sticking with us through that. Please join us next week. What are we going to talk about next week, Ivy?
We're going to talk about online friends.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so discussing your relationship with your online friends. Maybe you have a group of gamer pals that you only see when you play Call of Duty.
Or maybe you have actual real life friends that you met 18 years ago on Yahoo groups, like me.
Oh my God, that's adorable.
The gorgeous young mums. It was created in England.
Oh, I love that. Well, I have a Discord group of pals that I'll be shouting out in that episode as well. So looking forward to that. We're going to try to alternate some sort of heavier topics with a little bit of lighter topics so that we're not like Debbie Downers every week.
Absolutely.
But, I enjoy talking about anything and everything with you, Ivy. So
I know. It's fun talking about stuff with you, Katie.
I love podcasting.
Listeners, if you have anything you want to say about this particular episode, please feel free to send us an email at contact@toxicwasteoftime.com. We would love to hear from you. Very interested in this topic still. We can continue our discussion via email, or even if it's something you'd like to talk about on the pod.
Yeah. We haven't had a guest in a minute. So if you would like to be a guest on our podcast, hit us up. That would be really fun. I mean, I really enjoyed talking to our friend Mike.
Yeah.
Shout out Mike. And I would love to just
if you have a relationship with something weird.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about your weird relationship, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
And also, if you have anything to say about online friends, hit us up.
Yes. So thank you so much for joining us. Ivy's got to go pack a suitcase and feed her man baby. And I've got to go feed myself and figure out what's going on with my psychotic gutter cat.
I love a psychotic gutter cat. So check us out at Toxic Waste of Time on Facebook and Instagram. And we will see you next time when we talk about our online friends.
Yay. All right. Bye.
Bye.